Well, shifting focus now, emerging nations' debt vulnerabilities and the Russia-Ukraine war are expected to feature prominently on the agenda as the first key event under India's G20 presidency kicks off in the city of Bengaluru. Finance ministers and central bank governors from G20 nations and top executives of leading international financial institutions have all gathered to brainstorm on roles of multilateral development banks, climate financing and debt situation, among others. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called on the nations to address risks to global growth due to high levels of debt in emerging economies.
You represent the leadership of global finance and economy at a time when the world is facing serious economic difficulty.
Well, staying with G20, a tug of war has erupted over the text for the G20 joint statement. In fact, the finance ministers of Britain and France tell us that the statement should not shy away from mentioning the Ukraine war and reprimanding Russia. Parishad Luthra gets us more details. Parishad, this is quite a contentious issue, especially the different set of stakeholders that we have among the G20 nations. What else are you picking up?
Well, it is the anniversary, one-year anniversary of the Ukraine-Russia war, and it's very clear that there is a divide over the G20 communique or the outcome document. The G7 is pushing for strong language to condemn Russia's role in the Ukraine conflict, which has been on for 12 months now. They have said that the use of or threat of nuclear weapons is absolutely inadmissible. This era cannot be a war. The Ukraine war has caused immense human suffering and immense loss to the global economy. They have also said that there can be no departure from the Bali communique when it comes to the wording on the Ukraine-Russia war. We've got to know from sources that Russia and China have suggested or are trying to dilute the text on the Ukraine paragraphs, especially in the communication. And G7 leaders have told us here at this meeting, the negotiators from these countries have told us that any dilution from the Bali text on Ukraine will not be acceptable and G7 will not give its go-ahead. So even yesterday, there was a late-night meeting which went on till about 1 a.m. in the night. We believe that the negotiators are still in this room inside the convention center at JW Marriott here in Bengaluru. And remember, these meetings began at 7 a.m. in the morning and those negotiations still continue. The other contentious issues are debt restructuring and how the debt impact in countries like Zambia and Sri Lanka will be brought down. Differences over strengthening multilateral development banks as well. But coming to a consensus on the communique remains the biggest challenge for the Indian government, for the Ministry of External Affairs and the Ministry of Finance as well. Nirmala Sitharaman has hosted 10 bilateral meetings on the sidelines of this G20 meeting. India has also told us, and government sources telling us, that they will stick with the Bali text and they will not allow any dilution of the Bali text to take place whatsoever. Back to you.
Well, we are very clear that it would be a big mistake to make the text any weaker than it was at the leaders' meeting agreed in Bali, and I think it's widely understood that on the anniversary of the terrible invasion of Ukraine, that would send exactly the wrong signal. You know, I want to congratulate the government of India. I think they've done a fantastic job putting together this summit. It's obviously a very difficult international situation, and to have a G20 meeting at which you have the United States, the United Kingdom, Russia around the same table is very challenging.
We cannot water down a communique that has been decided by the head of states. And we cannot water down a communique which makes very clear that we all condemn the illegal and brutal aggression of Ukraine. I would like to quote Prime Minister Modi when he says it is not an era of war. He is fully right, and we should stick to the wise sentence of Prime Minister Modi. This is not an era of war, and it would be a mistake not to have a ceasefire, not to put that war to an end.
Well, there you have it. Diplomats from the G20 nations in a huddle.